Hello and welcome to Great British Ghosts. Today we're in Bolton. Later on I'll be going to Smithills Hall, which is famous for its grandeur and beauty. And of course one or two ghosts. But first I'm heading to Haleth Wood, which in the 16th century was called Hall in the Wood. Well, the wood has long gone and instead it can be found right in the middle of a housing estate. So when you finally come across it along this cobbled road, it really does look like a spooky haunted house.
Haleth Wood Hall is a magnificent early 16th century manor house, literally hidden away inside a housing estate in Greater Manchester. The hall itself is a Grade 1 listed building and is currently used as a museum by Bolton Council. Local author and paranormal researcher Jason Carl agreed to show me around.
Michaela!
Hi, Jason.
Hello, come on in.
This is a fantastic place and what an extraordinary way to find it.
It's an amazing house. It's, in fact, Bolton's most haunted house, a great historic venue built in the Tudor period, and 7 really strong ghost stories that many people have witnessed, seen and heard over several years.
Nobody lives here now, do they?
Not living.
It's a museum.
But there's lots of different... It is a museum. It's open to the public. The staff that work here experience the ghosts. People come here and do ghost investigations. And also the general public every day have things happen to them. And our first story actually starts here with this staircase, which is quite a very dark wood staircase, a little bit spooky. And it's the main place where people see a pair of legs, disembodied legs, feet, shins, ankles, moving up the stairs. Now, this has been seen many times, and it's believed to be a member of the Brownlow family, and the Brownlow family were the family that initially built the building back in the Tudor period.
So what happened to his body?
Well, the theory is that ghosts over time degrade, if you can imagine like a battery. So a ghost might start off being seen and heard and maybe touching people, and then over a course of time the battery runs down, so you may not see the full body anymore, you may not hear the sound anymore, and that's the explanation for seeing just the legs and the feet going up the stairs. And it also connects to the story at the top of the stairs in the most haunted room, which is the Brownlow bedroom.
Let's venture up. That is so weird, though, just to see the
strange,
lower
isn't it?
half. Definitely spooky.
So, Michaela, this is the Brownlow bedroom, which is believed to be the most haunted room in the house.
It's a great-looking room, isn't it?
It's a fantastic room. In fact, it hasn't changed really from the 17th century. It's very much as it was and hasn't been touched. And that might be one of the reasons why people have a sense of oppression and dread. In fact, a lot of guests who come here during the day when it's open to the public refuse to come into this room.
Really? Because to me it feels lovely. It's light and airy and...
It's beautifully light, and in fact the light that's coming through the windows is important because one of the ghost stories associated with this room actually happens here. So the spirit in the room is believed to be a female ghost, which possibly could be somebody from the Brownlow family or the Crompton family. Not only seen here inside, but also the face seen through the window from below, people who are passing by the house looking out.
And seen as a shadow or an actual apparition?
Seen as an actual apparition, a full apparition, not a sort of a shade or a silhouette, but an actual full-bodied apparition. But the other ghost in the room is not. And this relates directly with the story on the staircase that you've just walked up. As people come to the top of the staircase, they make contact visually with this bed if the door is open. And what they describe seeing, which is quite common, is as if somebody is sitting on the bed here and they can see the bottom of the legs, the ankles and the feet below the bed, but no upper body, exactly the same as on the stairs.
So that really is quite a spooky thing to see. Talking of which...
It's a shocking thing to see, and so is this.
I mean, what is this? Is this some sort of torture thing?
It's not, actually. It looks like something that perhaps you'd see in a specialist shop, but it isn't. It's actually an ancient form of a bed warmer. So what actually would happen is that hot coals or embers will be placed on here, the blankets will be drawn back over, and that would actually heat the bed up for whoever's going to sleep in it.
I bet a few beds have gone up in flames with that
I should think they have. This one has survived, and if you have a look down here underneath this, this sort of duvet mattress that's on here at the moment, you can see these ropes. And this is interesting because it's where the phrase sleep tight comes from. So if you pull the ropes really tight, you'd have a better night's sleep, and that's where sleep tight originated.
Doesn't look that comfy to me, especially if you've got those ghost legs hanging over the edge.
Ghost
as well.
legs is a bit small as well.
Yeah.
Let me take you to the withdrawing room, because that's our next ghost story.
This way?
This way, turn left.
Up in the bedroom, the Brownlaw bedroom, one day I was sitting with a class full of children, 30 children, teachers and everybody all sitting there, and this really strong smell of lavender just appeared from nowhere. And we all I was talking to the children, and one of the teachers said, "Oh, I can smell lavender." And we all said, "Yeah," and the children said, "Oh, we can smell," because they didn't maybe know what it was, but we can smell something as well. It's really strong, and some of them didn't like it, some of them did. And then as fast as it had appeared, just suddenly it totally went again.
It's interesting here that we have a mixture of different types of experiences that people have reported. We have all the normal sounds, we've got temperature fluctuations, music, footsteps, etc., but also things that are seen. Now, this is much rarer than those other kind of more common phenomena. Here we have the woman in the Brownlow bedroom, which is seen. We have the disembodied legs, and also the striding man in the Victorian or Edwardian outfits. It's quite unusual to have so many ghosts that have physically seen actual manifestations. So, Michaela, this is moving towards what's known as the withdrawing room.
Withdrawing?
Withdrawing room, yes. It's now called just the drawing room. Over time, the width has been dropped.
Again, a great, big, airy room,
It's a fantastic room, isn't it? And this over here is a very interesting connection to one of the experiences that many people have reported. This is actually a very old spinet, and music, ghostly music, inexplicable music, has been heard many times, certainly in the house, but also people who are passing by the house outdoors at night and in the day. And it's interesting because Samuel Compton, who's very much associated with the house, was not only famous for designing the spinning mule, but was also a very accomplished mathematician and also musician. So there's a connection between the ghost story and the music. And there are other things in this room as well. We do have a story of what is perceived to be maybe a Victorian or an Edwardian gentleman who is known as the Striding Man. Now, he's been seen in this room, but he's also been witnessed in other areas of the house, striding. We've got wooden floors, very much strong, heavy footsteps. When people have seen him, they've described him as wearing a black suit, like a tailcoat, and a very high, starched white collar. So Victorian, could be a servant, might be a member of the household.
Could even be Edwardian, I suppose.
Could be Edwardian as well. And also, there is another little secret in this room, which is over here in this corner, which I want to show you. This is an ancient form of toilet. It's not haunted, but yeah, this is where you would entertain your guests and allow them to enjoy a little bit of relief.
Well, maybe you wouldn't entertain them in there.
Well, you might do.
Yes.
You might do.
Then it's a drop loo that just drops.
Just a drop loo, yeah. Height of luxury for the time.
It would have been, wouldn't it? Indoor
yeah.
toilet.
And right next to where you're enjoying your coffee or your after-dinner mints. Very nice.
So not spooky, just stinky.
Not spooky, just stinky.
One day in here, we were setting out the costumes for the children. We weren't actually talking, it was a quiet morning, just putting things out. And we heard kind of shuffling footsteps, really, or scraping footsteps with this sort of a noise, as if somebody was walking sort of behind where we are now, near the fireplace, but almost shuffling or scraping. It was a scraping sound behind us, and then it just stopped. As soon as it began, it stopped. It was kind of, it came from nowhere. They didn't sort of wander off or anything, and myself and the other lady looked at each other, and I said, "What, did you hear that?" And she said, "Yeah, we both heard the footsteps together."
Who do you think is haunting the house?
I think there are lots of different spirits that are potentially haunting and creating activity in this building, and they cross over different generations. You know, you've got the story of the young girl, we don't know who she is. You've got the story of Betty Crompton, the mother of Samuel Crompton, who's very much associated with the building. And then you have the more generic hauntings, such as the Victorian or Edwardian striding man and the woman who's been seen in the kitchen. So who they are, it's very easy to make assumptions because we know the history, we know the characters associated with the building. Therefore, when something is seen, you assume that it's that person. The reality is that we don't actually know. The best evidence we have is what mediums say, because if a medium can come into a building without knowing its history and give names, dates and information which correlates with historical records, then that is evidence as to who's haunting.
It's been very interesting, shall we say, over the last 6 years. Lots of things have happened, strange things, which haven't been that scary, but a little bit scary, and especially in the evenings and at night when we've done evening events, then it is scary.
Well, although this place does look a little bit spooky from the outside, once you get inside, it actually has a really nice atmosphere. But I think with its history and its hauntings, you could definitely say that it spins a good yarn. This is Smithills Hall in Bolton. It's one of those grand, atmospheric, rambling old houses which has a rich history and an even richer variety of ghosts and hauntings.
Smithills Hall has a long history. Parts of it date back to the 15th century, but much of what you can see today was added in Victorian times, when it was home to Colonel Ainsworth and his family. Now it's a museum run by Bolton Council, and one of its curators, Anne Melmoth, agreed to take me on a tour.
This is Colonel Ainsworth's room. This was where he would spend his afternoons with his friends, and these glasses, there's a lot of activity around these glasses. We put them that way up because they don't get dusty then. He mustn't like that. He mustn't like the idea that his glasses are that way. And what happens on a regular basis is this one in particular is either found on its side or tipped up that way.
No way. So you come in the morning and it's
like
changed?
that.
And how often does that happen?
That happens not every week or every month, but it does happen. It has happened over the years on a regular basis. So it's been discovered by quite a few people.
One of the things that Colonel Ainsworth is apparently notorious for is within his entertainment room, in his room, is turning those glasses over. Now, of all of the things that this man could do, that's the thing that he chooses to do. He chooses to say, no, I don't have my glasses that way. This is the way that my glass is supposed to be. And it is very much as if he still feels that he's correcting the servants. You know, it's a really pernickety thing. But it is a reflection on him of how he would have wanted everything in its place and everything as he wanted it to be. And he's still doing that. And I think that's fabulous.
So we're going through to this room now. This is another of Colonel Ainsworth's rooms. This is the library. This is where he would spend his afternoons or his evenings.
Look at all those old books. So he had a whole beautiful room just to read a book.
Yeah. The other thing that happened to me on the paranormal night was in this room. And we were doing what's called mirror scrying, when you sort of look at the mirror and you just concentrate on looking at the mirror. And as you stood behind me now, there were people stood behind me. And all of a sudden, and it's a moustache theme again, I grew this dark moustache that came right down here. And it was really clear. And everybody behind me saw it as well.
So it actually physically appears in the mirror?
In the mirror, you could see this black shadow in the mirror. For all the world, I looked like I had a Frank Zappa type, moustache. Ooh. And the spooky bit was when we went afterwards, we were going round, and there is a portrait of Colonel Ainsworth in his younger days, in his uniform. And when we looked at that, he's got the same moustache. So it was him. The room we're going into now would have been the housekeeper's room. So this is her domain, if you like. This is where all the linens would be kept in these cupboards. And obviously we don't let the public up here, but sometimes we have to come. They do surveys. Sometimes we've had architects around who want to look at the structure of the building, and so we'd have to let them in here. And every time I've been in here, and I've walked up those stairs, which lead up to what would have been the servants' quarters. And as you walk up, all these doors are closed. And then when you come back down, one door, this door, would be
open.
Open, like that.
And there's nothing, it's not drafty here, is
No.
there? And that's happened a lot?
It's happened more than once. It's happened 2 or 3 times to me, that.
Up in that derelict area, I was up there earlier whilst you were filming with Anne, and she was telling you the story of the housekeeper, and I was stood at the doorway and I looked up and I could actually see the housekeeper. I could hear her, and she was just so mad. And it wasn't an angry mad, it was almost like a lunatic mad. She just wanted everybody out. I really was expecting her to throw something off the balcony or push someone. I was really expecting her to do something. I was obviously really relieved that she didn't.
Joan Shepherd has worked at the Hall for many years and has had a number of paranormal experiences.
Now, we had a very large mirror in the shop called the Puget Mirror. It's now at the Town Hall. And just before opening times, I was doing my hair and my lipstick, and I could see a man in the doorway through the mirror. So I turned round, went towards him, and said, "Can I help you?" No reply, he'd disappeared. So I went back to the mirror, and I could see him on the staircase through the door with his arm on the stairway.
And what did
looking at me.
What did he look like, Joan?
He had white hair and a darkish suit.
So who do you think he might have been?
I think he was George Marsh.
So despite the fact that he didn't die here, he still haunts the place?
He's still around the place. I'm quite sure of that. Now, this is George Marsh's footprint. When he came down here from the interrogation room, he stamped his foot.
So he sort of stamped with injustice? and
With
it left a mark.
injustice of what had happened. And he looked up to God and said, "I have not been treated fairly here."
Please leave a mark.
That's right, and that's his mark. When I was showing somebody the foot, I had a crowd round, and I always had my hand like that, and I was grabbed very hard, and it really hurt.
How hard?
Well, I don't want to hurt you.
Oh, really hard?
It was really hard, and it had a mark on where...
And you couldn't see anything behind
I couldn't
you?
see anything. There was nothing there, only people in front of me.
How did that make you feel, Joan?
Really frightened.
Well, I'm not surprised.
But not as frightened as I am up these stairs. I will show you.
What happened to Joan is really interesting. The fact that she was physically grabbed, that she was pulled, that after the occurrence when she looked, she actually had the marks on her wrist. Now, that's not common activity. And it takes an awful lot for an energy to be able to focus itself, to be able to focus its energy, to be able to create physical effect. So if we assume that that was George Marsh making himself known, it would have taken a tremendous amount of his own focus and energy to be able to create physical effect like that. It's not easy and it's not common.
Michaela, I hear all sorts of bumps and noises in this hall, and I think a lot of them come from this room. And I really hate going in here.
Why?
I start trembling.
Really?
There's just something about it, and it's horrid.
Do you always feel something, Joan?
Yes, I won't go in. I go like a...
Yeah, but you have to go in there. You have to show me.
I'm being very brave going in here. Now, this is George Marsh's room, we call it, or the green room, and this is where he was questioned. And he would have sat on this chair, and the Boltons would be there questioning him.
What's the feeling you get in here then, Joan?
My whole body at the moment is turning to ice, and I feel very, very frightened, and I will be glad when I go out.
But what are you frightened of?
It's frightened of the unseen. I don't know what's going on around me, and yet I know there is something there, possibly George Marsh.
I think the thing with George Marsh is that he wants his story to be heard. His injustice, his frustration, and I think that he invades people's space. He wants people to know that he's here. He wants people to talk about him. He wants his story to be told. He's a martyr, and he's out there and he's still standing up for what he believes is right, and he still feels that he was unjustly treated. I think he has a right to be a bit grumpy sometimes.
I've had so many things happening to me here, noises, being pushed, and all sorts of things in different rooms. Screaming, seeing children. It's haunted, all right.
Well, Smithills Hall really is an extraordinary place, and so many people that visit it seem to have an experience. In fact, even today when we were filming, we all heard children playing in the courtyard. When we looked out the window, there were no children there. Had they run away, or was it a paranormal experience? I guess we'll never know. See you next time. Bye-bye.